In this video, I am going to talk about Apexification, a simple, time-tested treatment to manage teeth with open apices. Stick around. If you're new to the channel, my name is Siju Jacob. I've been a private practitioner for the past 25 years in Bangalore and Dubai. I've been using a surgical microscope in my private practice for more than 20 years, and I've been training dentists how to use the surgical microscope in everyday clinical practice for more than a decade. If you've been here before and you found some value in the videos that I post every week, then make sure you click on that subscribe button so that you get notified every time I upload a new video, which is usually every Sunday. You can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Wisdom Wednesdays. It's a very short email that I send out every Wednesday to our subscribers. I've put the link in the description below to have a look. All right, let's get to it. What is apexification and when do we use it? Let's take a look at a typical case where apexification is done. You have a tooth here which is non-vital, it has an open apex and a bit of a lesion. What are your alternatives here? So the two treatment options we have when we get a case like this, an open apex case like this, is A, bioceramic barrier, or B, apexification. Bioceramic barriers are the preferred method these days. However, I personally feel that apexification still has its role to play in everyday clinical endodontic practice. When we say bioceramics, we mean one of these three materials, which is MTA, biodentine, or bioceramic putty. Any of these three things fall under bioceramics. So how do we use them? So here you have an open apex case. You go in there and deposit a layer of bioceramic material, whether it be MTA, biodentine, or bioceramic putty. You use some sort of a device to carry that material over here, and that material will form a hardened layer or an apical barrier against which you can condense. So that's your apical barrier here, and then you can condense gutta percha against this apical barrier. So that's the bioceramic way of doing it. Apexification is not directly placing a barrier, but we put some calcium hydroxide and you induce the apical tissues to form a calcific barrier. So this is apexification. You put calcium hydroxide into the canal and slightly into the periapical area, and then this will activate undifferentiated mesenchymal cells in the periapical area, which will differentiate into cementoblast and osteoblast. And these cells will start depositing hard tissue here. So a barrier is formed here with the help of cells from the periapical area. And this hard tissue barrier can either be cementum-like, bone-like, or dentin-like. So this is how it looks like. So that's how you start, and that's the barrier. And this is not placed by us. It's something that the body forms. So in apexification, we are stimulating the body to form this apical barrier. Now let's compare the two techniques, bioceramic barrier and apexification. Well, the bioceramic barrier, the big advantage is that it's pretty fast. In 1 or 2 sessions, you can form the barrier. It's pretty predictable. However, it's comparatively expensive. The material, whether it be MTA or bioceramic putty or biodentine, these are expensive. It may not be a big deal in countries where practitioners charge a lot of money for endodontic therapy, but however, there are lots of countries in the world where the fee for endodontic therapy is very low. And when you add in the cost of MTA or bioceramic putty or biodentine for that matter, it can significantly increase the cost of endodontic therapy. So that again can be a factor when it comes to bioceramic barriers. And the last is that it is quite technique sensitive. So placement of a bioceramic barrier to generally take a bioceramic into the apical area and form a nice barrier there is not as easy as it sounds. So it takes a bit of practice. You have to have some skill. So it's not very easy for a beginner to do that. So these are some of the factors that you need to consider when opting for bioceramic barriers. Apexification, on the other hand, one of the big disadvantages is that it's quite time consuming. So you have to put calcium hydroxide, then you have to wait for usually a year or so for the barrier to form. So it takes some time. However, the outcome is equally predictable. And this is a big advantage. It's comparatively inexpensive. All you need is a little bit of calcium hydroxide and then just wait for some time. So it's way, way cheaper than placing a bioceramic putty or an MTA. Like I said, it is a factor in countries where practitioners aren't charging a lot of money for endodontic therapy. And the last advantage of Apexification is that it is less technique sensitive. All you need to do is put some calcium hydroxide and make sure it's in contact in the apical area, and that's about it. And you just wait and watch. Put a nice coronal seal and wait and watch. It's not as technique sensitive and doesn't require as much of a skill as placing a bioceramic barrier at the apical area in a very delicate manner. So way less technique sensitive. So that's the advantage of Apexification. Now let's look at some clinical cases so you have some idea of what exactly we mean by Apexification. So here you have a pre-op. This is a wide open apex, a little bit of a lesion there. So we fill this entire canal with calcium hydroxide and then put a nice coronal seal there. Here's a 6 months recall. We expect to see the patient back in 1 year, but some patients turn up much later. And in this case, patient turned up 20 months later, and you can see there's a nice apical barrier there. So we remove the calcium hydroxide. You can see radiographically there's a nice barrier formed. And because we have a microscope, we have the ability to zoom in there and then have a look at the apical area through the microscope. And you can see a nice, thick, uniform apical barrier formed by the periapical tissues. And then you can condense gutta percha because you have a solid barrier there, so you can condense against it. And then that's how the post-obturation radiograph looks like, with a nice composite restoration on top. So you have a pre-op there, and that's the post-op. So you can see this is classical Apexification. Here's another case where somebody already did endodontic therapy and then there was some infection. Then the surgeon did an episectomy, and now you have an open apex with a recurrent infection many years down the road. So we did retreatment. We retained the crown during the period of the Apexification with an aim to change it later on. So you have a tooth here. We made an access there and we removed all the gutta percha and then placed calcium hydroxide. And again, instead of 1 year, the patient turned up after 2 years. But the good news is the lesion's completely healed. You can see that's how it was in March 2011. This is how it was in March 2013. And a nice barrier formation, but the calcium hydroxide is still there. So we went back in there. We removed the calcium hydroxide. Here you can see that's the calcium hydroxide. And you can see a nice uniform apical barrier there against which we can condense. So that's how it looks under the microscope. By the way, anybody watching can do this in your own clinical practice. All you need to do is figure out how to use a microscope, and I've made it very simple. Do check out my online course, Microscopic Dentistry Simplified. I've structured it specifically for the general dentist to buy a microscope, bring it into your practice, and start using it in a few days, so that these kind of things like getting a picture of a central incisors, the apical area, is something that you can do in less than a week of bringing a microscope into your practice. So it's not something that's impossible. And once you have, the best way to view the apical barrier is through the microscope. And then, of course, you can condense gutta percha because now you have a barrier, a natural barrier that's formed by the body. So that's how the post-op looks like. So this is how we started, and you can see the lesions healed and a barrier is formed against which you can condense gutta percha, and that's a fiberglass post on top. So yep, those are some typical Apexification cases. And over the years, when we talk about Apexification, practitioners do have some doubts. The students that we teach have some questions which are very commonly asked. So let me just take you through some of the commonly asked questions when we talk about Apexification. The first question is what calcium hydroxide to use, what type of calcium hydroxide to use, and how often do we need to change it? Well, the problem with aqueous solutions of calcium hydroxide, or the calcium hydroxide which we use in routine clinical practice, is that it resorbs pretty fast. It's too fluid. So you place it here and within a few weeks, the entire thing disappears and you get an empty canal space. And remember, in Apexification, we want to hold this calcium hydroxide for a long period, typically 6 months to almost a year. So you want a calcium hydroxide which doesn't resorb or dissolve that fast in the canal. So you want it to remain in the canal for a while. So what we use is calcium hydroxide mixed with iodoform, because we tend to see that it remains in the canal. It gets resorbed from the canal as easily as aqueous solutions of calcium hydroxide. So typically this is how it looks. So as you can see, this is calcium hydroxide mixed with iodoform. 6 months, 20 months, it's the same calcium hydroxide. We don't really change it. Okay, so when you go back in there, you can see the calcium hydroxide is still there. The next question that we get a lot is what kind of temporary restoration do you put, because you're going to hold this for a year. And the coronal seal is something that's really important, because if you lose the coronal seal, then Apexification often doesn't work because the canal gets contaminated. So you need a really good coronal seal. So what I usually do is I fill the canal with calcium hydroxide, then put a layer of cavity G on top so that you can go back into the canal there, because cavity G is very easy to remove with ultrasonics. And then on top of that, I would put a light cured glass ionomer cement. So you have two layers here. This glass ionomer cement you can remove with a burr when you go back in there, and the cavity G can easily be removed with any ultrasonic tip. You just put it in there with some water and you can flush everything out. The next question we get is, how do we know if the barrier is formed or not? Well, there are three ways of doing this. First of all, have a look radiographically, so you can see the barrier formation in the radiograph when you take a recall radiograph. So that's one way of doing it. And then second is, if you have a microscope, then the best way is to zoom in all the way into the apex and then have a look at that barrier through the microscope. So this is the other way of doing it. And the third way of doing it is putting a gutta percha cone, and then it should encounter resistance. It will not easily slide past the apex if there is a barrier there. So it will kind of encounter resistance here. So these are the three ways by which you figure out whether or not there is a barrier there. However, the easiest and the best way to do this is through a microscope, like I said, and anybody can do this. Zoom in and you can see this barrier here. You can see it's not uniform. And this is something that you can see only with a microscope. So when you put a gutta percha cone, it encounters resistance here. But when you zoom in there, you can see the barrier is not uniform. So these sort of things you can see only through a microscope. And like I said, this is something that anybody can do in their practice. All you need to do is get a microscope, and within a few days, you too can take pictures like this. If you want to know how, then do check out the online course, Microscopic Dentistry Simplified. And another common question we get is, if you use calcium hydroxide for such a long period, that's 6 months to 1 year, doesn't the tooth get weakened? Because there are a lot of studies saying that calcium hydroxide can decrease the fracture resistance of dentine. So does that play a role? Does the tooth actually tend to fracture? Well, it is true that sometimes teeth tend to fracture, especially anteriors tend to fracture here at the cervical margin when we've used long-term calcium hydroxide therapy. But I don't think it's because of the calcium hydroxide. I think it's because of the fact that a lot of these teeth are weak to begin with. So you look at open apice cases, remember these teeth become non-vital before there is cervical thickening here. So the cervical area is weak to begin with. So one must make an effort to strengthen this part with not just gutta percha, but preferably a fiber post so that it doesn't snap off at the cervical level. So we, as a routine, always place a fiberglass post, and these days you have other options as well, but do something to strengthen this portion. So here you can see I inverted a fiber post. So a lot of our cases, because the coronal part is so wide for these immature teeth, regular fiberglass posts when placed the routine way are too loose. So often we have to invert them and put them in these canals. So you see here, this is a fiberglass post inverted. So all the open apex cases that we treat, you can see here, a lot of it is filled with the fiberglass post. So you can see the apical part is filled here with the gutta percha here, and then the coronal part is a fiberglass post. We believe that this minimizes fracture or snapping off at the cervical area to a large extent. So I hope that sort of made apexification a bit more clearer. If you have some doubts, then do post it in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. A reminder again that you can subscribe to my weekly newsletter, just a short email that I send out every week to our subscribers. I've put the link in the description below. And don't forget to click on that subscribe button so that you get notified every time I upload a new video, which is usually every Sunday. And if you like content like this, then maybe you'd enjoy watching some of my other videos on the channel coming up over here. I'll see you next week with another video. Thanks for watching.